Hi everyone, my name is Albert, one of the co-founders of VectorShift. Today we're going to talk about a new feature that we just launched called variable sets. Before we do this, let's go over what variables are in VectorShift and what variable sets allows you to do in addition to what variables do today. So in VectorShift, as you know, you can reference different nodes in the pipeline builder using variables. You reference variables using double curly braces, which opens this variable builder. And this variable builder first allows you to select which node you want to reference and which output field you want to refer to. In this case, the text node only has one output field, so you click text, and you're referring to the value within this text node called hello. And if you print this out, we have hello, right? So variables, historically in VectorShift, and also moving forward, this is going to be the primary use of variables, is to reference different nodes across the pipeline builder. Now, we have this new tab in the top right called variable sets. Variable sets allow you to define variables that maintain values instead of the value within nodes. I'll show you what this means right now. So when you create a variable sets, you can think of variable sets as kind of like a folder for your variables. Just call this first variable set. And then you could give these variable sets access to specific pipelines. So you can kind of share this folder of variables with a specific pipeline. So let's go ahead and select variable demo, which is the pipeline we were just in. Let's go ahead and create a variable set. Now, when you create a new variable, you give the variable a name. Let's just call this greeting v1. And then you can select the type of the variable. There are two types of variables in this variable set. There's global and runtime variables. We're going to go into each very specifically, but what runtime variables are is they do not maintain the value of the variable between runs, right? So we have this node in VectorShift called set variable, which allows you to change the value of these variables in these variable sets within the pipeline builder. And if you change it, and it's a runtime variable, and you have another run and you print out the variable again, the value actually doesn't change. Now, for global variables, right, if you change the variable, right, but in the pipeline builder, and then you print it out again within a separate run, you print out the new run, the new value of that variable. Then you select the data type. We're going to just use text in this demonstration, and then you provide a value for that variable itself. So let's just say, this variable called greeting v1, let's give it the value hello. Now let's create another variable called greeting v2. Let's give it a global variable type, and let's just say the value is how are you doing. Let's go ahead and create this variable. Now, if I go back to the pipeline, when you use the double curly braces, now you can see you can reference two different types of things, right? You can reference different nodes just like normal, and then you can reference variable sets, right? And then the variables within those variable sets. So if I click variable v1, right, and I print it out, we have hello, because the value of variable v1 was hello. Same thing with v2, right? So if I print this out, it's going to be how are you doing. Now, the difference between run and global is that global does not maintain the value between the runs, right? The runtime value always goes back to the default value between the runs. Let's go ahead and show you what I mean. So we have this new node called the set variable node. What this does is it changes the value of variables and variable sets. So let's go ahead and choose this variable set, and let's choose the global variable. Let's set this to by, right? So if I run this, right, and I go back, to the global variable and view the value is now by, right? And if I print it out, right, just with a text node, it's going to be by. Let's go ahead and drag on output node. Right, now it's by. Now, if it was a runtime variable, right, and I set it to by, right, and I print it out, it's still going to maintain the original value. Let's go ahead and show you that. So for set variable, let's choose v1 this time, and let's set by. And let's go ahead and print it out again. And let's select the output, right? So hello. So runtime variables maintain the value within a given run. Global variables do not go back to the default value between the runs and maintains the last value of the variable. So now you may ask, why are these variables useful? Now, the most simplest reason is if you have certain values that you want to maintain and you want to just reference those values, you can easily do that wherever you want in the Pipeline Builder. But it's especially useful in actually conversational situations where you want to set a variable to say someone's name after they provide the name, and then you want to use the value, right? Maybe someone's name later on in the pipeline, especially when there is a loop in that pipeline. I'll show you what I mean through this. So let's go ahead and go back to the variable set, and let's add a variable called name. And let's make it a runtime variable, and the default, let's leave it as a blank. So let's go ahead and go into the Pipeline Builder and drag out a start flag. Let's go ahead and use a message node and ask, what is your name? And then we want to capture that information through a capture node. Now let's go ahead and set that value to the name. So let's go ahead and set the name variable to what we got in the capture node. So what this means, right, is if I say my name is Albert, now the variable name is called Albert. Now, what if I have another pipeline, another section of this conversational node where I say, how can I help? And then let's go ahead and drag out an OpenAI node and a capture node. First to capture, what the user wants me to do. And let's go ahead and have this LLM to do the task requested. And the task is coming from this capture node. So if I ask, write a sonnet, this OpenAI node is going to write the sonnet. And then we want to print that out through a message node over here. Let's go ahead and print this. And then we want to loop this back to how can I help? So, like to request the user for any additional assistance that they may want. Now, what if I want to, make this a little bit more personalized and actually in this OpenAI response, refer to the name of the person using the chatbot? Now, one thing, because this is a loop, I can't actually connect this capture node to this OpenAI node because there could only be one entry point in a cycle, right? And this entry point in the cycle is here. How can I help? And this is very frequent in conversational nodes. Now, I can instead, right in your message, make it personalized to the person's name. For example, write a personalized message to the user before starting the task. And the name of the person, right, we can now reference that within the variable set, right? So within name. So now, right, we know that, my name is Albert. That's passed through this variable to this OpenAI node, and it's going to be able to accomplish this task. Let's go ahead and now run this pipeline. So now my name is Albert, and I can write, how can I help? Let's say write a sonnet. Now this OpenAI node is thinking. It's going to be able to print out a message. And it's written, hello, Albert. I'm delighted to craft a sonnet. And it's written the sonnet right here. And then it's looped back to how can I help? Now, if I want to now ask, write a poem about animals, right? I'm going to be able to send that in, right? And it's still going to be able to reference my name, right? Hello, Albert. I'm excited to write a poem about animals, and it's able to, do it again. And because this is a runtime variable, you can have multiple people actually be using your chatbot, and if the name of the person, right, Albert or John Smith or whatever, is cleared between the runs or between separate runs. So it's able to do this without actually referring to the wrong person. Hopefully this was helpful. I think this could be a useful feature if you're looking to build conversational chat pipelines. And let me know how else I can help. Thank you.